Astrology Toronto this afternoon to Southern Hemisphere by Robin Armstrong. Yes, and he's well known. I don't think there's much introduction I can give to him, everyone. He's well known, and so please welcome. I won't take any more time of your time.
Thank you. Okay, so Southern Hemisphere horoscope is something that isn't normally dealt with. Computers don't deal with it. It's based essentially on whether the zodiac, whether astrology is a mathematical system or whether it's a natural map or whether it's a mathematical symbol. And both streams are valid in astrology. You have a lot of mathematical associations justifying and explaining insights and a lot of psychological mathematical perceptions. But that's very different than experiential perceptions. You know, whether it's light out, whether it's dark out, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, whether it's summer, whether it's winter, whether you can plant crops or not plant crops, that's one thing. So the tropical zodiac by definition is based on the tropical seasons, on the seasons of the year. The seasons of the year are reversed in the southern hemisphere. So why wouldn't you reverse the signs for the southern hemisphere horoscope? The main reason, 80% of the books written on astrology are written in the northern hemisphere. And most people in the southern hemisphere studying it are reading the northern hemisphere books and coming in. And you can read into it, you can project into a language. I see astrology as a language. It can go lots of different ways. Most people are swearing in any language. But there's ways of using it to perceive. So this idea of what's mathematical, counting, like mathematical astrological logic, there's 12 signs. There's got to be 12 planets. Okay? There's 12 signs, there's 12 houses. The first house and the first sign must mean the same thing. It's not true. The third sign is the greatest brightness of the year. The third house is the greatest darkness of the day. You know, there's different energies experientially. So if you use astrology, a lot of astrology is numerological. We've got numbers, we put numbers in, we build it up. So even in dealing with the sidereal zodiac, it doesn't deal with the tropical seasons, it just deals with the constellations, but it's 30-degree divisions for mathematical convenience to remember where the stars were. But really, the constellations are very different sizes. And why wouldn't you go right to the constellations and the starlight energy than the 30-degree divisions, which are supposed to mean what these constellations mean? And they more or less fit into it. So these are some of the questions around. There's a lot of dialogues to go through. So I got a lot of slides to present just to work with it and to try and break it down. So how do you work with this? What changes? What's in effect with it? So is there really a difference? Well, difference in temperature, difference in nature, difference in time. But if someone's born in the southern hemisphere, now, are they a Virgo? It's almost springtime. Or take Aries. Aries is springtime. The pleasure and passions of spring, the hunting season, the mating season, everything's coming up on impulse. It doesn't matter, it's springtime, you go for it. Now, in the southern hemisphere, which you mostly use as northern hemisphere zodiac, Libra is the springtime. Oh, it's it's a nice springtime. So this is a puzzle. And then fall must be impulsive and assertive. But because they're both cardinal signs, you can sort of see it like that if you want to. But is there a difference? Is astrology really a map of the universe, of the psyche, of the DNA? Is it the map of who we are, or is it just a symbol? To me, it's more than a symbol. It's the DNA of life. And it's the connection to how nature is, whether it was storming or not storming, light out, dark out. This is all part of how we draw our meanings to get to use astrology, foundations of astrology. So, okay. Yeah, okay, so this is just a chart, has all the stars, most of the stars you can see around it. And as you see, there's all kinds of stars. like, it's hard to keep track of all the stars, different magnitudes, different sizes, different things. It's almost a technical headache. So this way, I'm not going to get into this long, just to start things from. But since there's been astrology, since there's been language, people have been trying to group, or information systems, religions, understandings, have been grouping the stars into groups to organize them into relative meanings, into grouped meanings. This has happened in astrology. This is done differently. The Arabs had different ones. Chinese had different constellations. Still grouped them in various ways with different meanings relative to certain teachings or certain ideas. So these are just a few old maps. And this one puts the equator. Okay, let's see if we can do this. The equator here is put in a bit. Why? So that you can see the zodiac signs around it, and the ecliptic for the equator is here. So the Earth is spinning along there, but the Sun is moving in its orbit past the zodiac constellations, 2 different dimensions. And the stars for the northern hemisphere are very different than the stars from the southern hemisphere. Different energies. Can it be? Does this have any meaning? Does it have any relevance in astrology? You know, like, if it doesn't, what's astrology? So this is another map, and this one is based on the equator. The equator's here, going along through the center, and this is the ecliptic here. So with the equator here, you can see Ophiuchus here. It cuts right across the equator, and Scorpio doesn't. But if you're watching the sun's path and the planets around the solar system through the zodiac, it doesn't go through Ophiuchus. You know, Ophiuchus to the zodiac is like a dead man. It's standing there naked with a bare foot on top of a scorpion. Like, scorpions are known to sting bare feet. Yeah. So, okay. So these were just a couple of maps. Even in the Christian era, in the Renaissance, the Christians tried to rewrite the stars and organize the constellations to 12 apostles, and change all the names to Christian symbols. And this was a big wave in the Renaissance. And this is one of the maps with the northern hemisphere Christ stars and southern hemisphere Christ stars. And of course, it does cause some problems, because some guy's going to have to be with the Virgin. Okay, so it creates. So it never was a real take. It was an attempt in literacy, which is run by churches and passed on by teachings that went on. So I just put it in for curiosity. This one was, it's based on the equator, which most science switched over to watching the equator and things moving and watching everything from the equator. We tend to watch it from the signs, so from the orbit of the planets moving around the sun. Well, the houses are based on the equator, the signs on the ecliptic. 2 different dimensions. Same heaven.